All right, we are off and rolling. Welcome back, everybody. This is the Hunting Overtime Podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Bryan.
And I'm Arik.
And we are here. We're going to tell you guys a little bit today, just kind of about how our fall's starting off, because we haven't been, I guess, staying up to date with our podcast. It's been a little bit difficult for us, to be honest with you.
Been a busy couple months.
Yeah, like we can make all these excuses all we want, but when it really comes down to it, we just haven't made time for it. We're working on a lot of videos and doing the video stuff. Obviously, we both have full-time jobs outside of this, in addition to the season's media. So it makes it really hard for us to really, I guess, make sure we get these things done. But we're here. We're gonna dish some out. We have a lot of fun stuff. I'm sure if you've been following along on the season's media, Instagram and social media and stuff like that, you know about a lot of the stuff we're doing. But today we're going to talk a little bit about a couple antelope we got down, and then just briefly touch on what we got going this fall. I'm back from Alaska, which happened in early September, so we had that going. We're going to do a whole podcast about that, so we're going to try to stay away from that topic a little bit.
That's for the next time.
Yeah, even though that one's going to be a little bit hard to stay away from, just because it was such a cool trip. But we're going to stay away from that one here. We're going to talk about some Nebraska stuff that we got going. And then we will catch Gary for a different podcast. He's got to tell us about some things he's had going. And then we'll talk about some Alaska hunting. So I don't know if you guys have tried these or not, but these are kind of one of the big hits around here, these bush light peaches.
They're not bad.
I kind of like them, dude. I'm not usually a big beer drinker. I'm like a whiskey, bourbon, like the hard stuff. But I like a little flavor in it. To me, it's better than the bush apples, my opinion.
Agree.
So that's what we're gonna put down a little bit here while we're talking with you guys. But to start, let's just kind of recap because it's been a while. So our falls, Arik, what'd you have for tags this fall?
So I had just a muzzleloader. I drew a muzzleloader antelope tag, which is usually an every 4-year-ish tag in Nebraska. And then other than that, just deer tags. So.
And so as a resident, I can't even remember. Do you know, can non-residents draw that muzzleloader tag? I know they can't.
I think it's just archery, right? For
yeah,
non-residents?
I know they can't do rifle.
Yeah, then I don't think they can do muzzleloader
And so I was
either.
thinking they couldn't do muzzleloader either. So that's kind of one of those unique things. Nebraska's got a few of those tags, or a couple, I guess, those two. It's got antelope tags that we can get that non-residents can't, and then we got elk tags that non-residents can't get.
Yep.
So that's it's kind of one of those special perks for us as Nebraskans, being able to get that muzzleloader antelope tag. And that's the only, besides, have you ever done archery antelope?
Tried it a few times, but obviously with no luck.
Yeah,
but
never successful on it, and I haven't. I guess I did shoot I shot a doe last year.
Yep.
Over a water hole with my bow, but I've never killed a buck. But so that's all you've done is muzzleloader antelope.
Yep.
Your whole life, really. Like you guys have never done the rifle tag.
Nope. My dad always put in for muzzleloader growing up, so that's just what we stuck to.
Yeah.
Which muzzleloaders nowadays
it's insane, dude.
Aren't quite what they were way back when.
And we'll get into that a little bit. I don't own a muzzleloader, but we'll touch on that a little bit. What are you guys shooting for a muzzleloader?
We shoot the Thompson Center Pro Hunter, which actually is not new at all. I think my dad's is probably 10 years old, but we found a bullet powder combination that makes it stupid accurate out to about 200 yards. So.
And I don't know that much about them. This year was the very first year I'd ever even pulled the trigger on a muzzleloader. I shot it. Well, if you guys are watching or listening, if you stay in tune with us, you know that we were successful. So we're just gonna dump that out right now.
Newsflash.
Yeah, we were successful.
Two antelope died.
Hopefully you guys have been following along the season's media stuff and you already knew that. But so that shot I put on my goat was the third time I ever pulled a trigger on a muzzleloader.
It just says the technology
Oh,
nowadays. It's insane.
It was no different than shooting a rifle to me.
No.
Yeah, at all.
I love muzzleloaders.
Where? So you said yours is did you say Thompson Center?
Yep.
Okay. What do you have? Like, what's it scoped with? What do you guys got it zeroed at?
It just it has one of the old Cabela's branded muzzleloader scopes. I can't even remember the exact model. Obviously not made anymore, but
yeah.
And I believe it's got 4 lines in it for bullet drop. So you just sight the first line at 100. And with this Cabela's scope, it was always in 50-yard increments, almost dead on.
Okay.
100, 150, 250.
And so you killed your goat this year at?
About 125 is what I ranged him at after I dropped him. I didn't even range him.
You knew he was close enough that you just need to pull up and shoot. That's awesome. So, and then the muzzleloader I was using was actually Gary's, and his was a CVA Paramount. And kind of like you said, it takes some adjusting and figuring out how much powder and stuff you're going to put in and what bullet you're going to shoot and things like that. But, I mean, you and I both know Gary like he's a technical guy. Like I would hate to know how many hours he spent to make sure that gun was shooting perfect and just dead on. But it definitely was. And he had that thing zeroed at 200. And so when him and I were talking, he had killed a deer, I think he said at 3 1/4.
Jeez.
With it. So I was pretty comfortable. If I had something at like 350, I could probably take a stab at it, which is just like, it's insane.
Yeah. And I think that gun, someone can correct me if I'm wrong later when they're listening, but I think it has like 300 Win Mag ballistics out to like 400 yards. That's how serious that one is of Gary's.
And I don't remember.
It was something crazy I read one time.
I don't remember exactly what the drop was, and I don't know what the drop is on a 300 Win Mag either. I want to say it was like at 300 yards, it dropped like, gosh, I'm ballparking. It was like somewhere between 14 and 19 inches or something like that.
Which is nothing.
Yeah.
A lot of bigger rifles.
Yeah, I think 400 was like 29 or something like that, maybe. And again, I could be off. I'm just trying to reference. He had given me a ballistics sheet before we went, and that was kind of, if I remember right, that's kind of where it was at. But and then he had a Vortex scope on it, so that's where it throws me off a little bit, because it was in MOA, which doesn't make it harder, but like me trying to remember back what the drop was makes it a little bit more difficult. So but yeah, just absolutely insane. Like, it made me want one, but I also know that if I don't put the work in, like what I know he probably put into that thing, like, it's not going to be as accurate.
Yeah, ours is definitely less complicated. You just make sure it's on at 100 and try it out at different ranges, and you just, I don't want to say hope for the best, because we don't just go out there and lob stuff at antelope, but definitely not as precise as that setup.
Yeah. So how many days did you hunt? Let's talk about your goat first, just because you shot it first.
Okay. So I believe I shot it on Monday. So hunted Saturday, Sunday, no luck. We have this herd of antelope that we're lucky enough to hunt where most people can't get to, thanks to the landowner. So we'd actually been watching this certain antelope for 3 years.
I was going to say, that's the craziest thing about your story, is that you've seen this same antelope, and you knew it was the same goat just because it was a unique spread.
Yeah. Very wide, heavy. Yeah. Looked like that basically for the last 4 years. Yeah. My dad actually had him at like 75 the year before, but he was in a group of does, so he couldn't get a shot.
Last year he did?
Yep.
Oh.
Which, thank God,
right, thank God.
Shot him.
Thank God he didn't get him last year.
But it wasn't really a whole lot to it, because we had this 2-track road through a pasture that we'd drive, and there's 4 cuts in the pasture, and he was in the second one, and I had just seen the last doe go over the hill, So I hopped out, basically sprinted to this hill, crawled up to the top, and there they all were, less than 200 yards.
And those first few days that you hunted, you were looking for this specific goat.
Yeah.
Had you seen him this fall before?
So my brother
muzzleloader season
chased him with his bow actually 2 weeks before. So
okay,
we had known he was back to where he always liked to be. And it actually, I was starting to kind of get pissed off because I thought he might have ran him out of there because I was struggling to find him the first 2 days. But
yeah, it just never turned up. And that's what's crazy. You think, like, I've always had the feeling that you should be able to go out and, like, it's just so wide open out here in western Nebraska. Now, I say that. There's definitely places that have rolling hills and things like that. But for the most part, it's open enough, and it's not like it's this dense forest. Like, you feel like you should be able to go out, and you should be able to turn the same antelope up every single time if you wanted to. Yeah. And it just doesn't happen.
I don't know where they were for 2 days prior, but
yeah, I don't know where they go.
The next day I walked 200 yards and was able to shoot him.
Yeah. And we'll talk about mine in a little bit, but just how they disappear just blows my mind. Yeah. Absolutely blows my mind that you could even, especially in your area, that you could even go multiple days without seeing that target buck when you know he's there and you know nobody killed him. Yep. Like, unless he really wandered a long ways. But so this was one that you guys, if I remember right, you guys weren't really planning on going out. Like, you didn't really have anything. Like, no, you were supposed to be working.
Yeah, my dad and I have a lawn service, and we got done early. And I'd actually gotten all 4 of my wisdom teeth pulled.
Was that the day before?
I forgot about that. Before, so we were going on like less than 16 hours. I was told I'm not supposed to lift anything, not supposed to strain myself. And my dad was like, "Hey, let's go to see if this antelope's out there."
That TC's not that heavy.
No, that antelope kind of was. I kind of forgot and drug him right back to the truck and helped my dad lift him. But
so you guys just you got a call from is that what I remember right? Your dad's like, "Hey, you want to go out?" Or
yeah, so he just called me when we got done mowing.
Not that he hadn't spotted this thing.
No.
He just was like, "Hey, we should go."
We should go drive around the first mile into the pasture. We got it done, and I was freaking out. It probably should have been on film. Everyone's going to be really mad, including Bryan, because my brother was my cameraman, and obviously he's in high school. So I didn't even grab the camera. I had zero faith we were even going to see this thing because I was convinced he was dead because we hadn't seen him for 2 days. But I shoot this thing, and I know that it's a monster. So
did you know at that point? Did you know it was the one you were after?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was obvious.
It's so obvious when he turns and looks your way because he just V's out really wide.
And that's for those of you watching. Like, I kind of wish we had. You probably already taken taxidermist. You don't have that anymore. For those of you watching, he like lays out like this. It's absolutely insane. I'll grab the picture and I'll drop that picture right here in the video for those of you watching. But it's insane. Yeah. Like the head-on picture of how he lays out.
Yep.
Is just wild.
Yeah. To put it in perspective, rough score is at least 80 inches, and he's only 13 3/4 inches tall.
Yeah.
So that just shows how old and gnarly and heavy this thing was.
I couldn't even put my hands around the base of his horns.
Yeah.
I mean, I could just barely get him to touch if I squeezed super hard.
Yep.
And it's not like I have little hands.
And my dad didn't believe me because it was just my brothers and I chasing him the 2 days prior, and he missed it last year, so he was pouting and wasn't going with us. And when I shot, I called him. He could see me standing out in the pasture, but I called him and I was like, "You're gonna freak out when you see
So he
this."
just like dropped you off out of the pickup because you saw this group, or what happened there?
Well, they had to mow the trail road that just goes along this fence line because our grass is so tall this year, with how much rain we had. So we can't drive off the road or we'll start a fire with the pickup. So I just bailed out of the truck as soon as we could see him up in the hill.
And you could see the group, and you could tell that it was a buck? Like, at that point, did you know it was that buck, or you just knew it was a buck?
I just knew it was a buck. So, and it was where he always is when you see him. So
you had maybe a feeling.
I just knew it was gonna be him.
That's sweet. So then, how far did you walk when you bailed out there? Did you have to go far? Or?
I jogged probably 300, 400 yards to get up over a hill, so really not that far. Yeah. But
did your dentist not recommend that? I assume?
No, running was not. I did not follow doctor's orders.
That's okay. It was worth it. You're okay right now, so you turned out all right.
Yeah, there was a few rough days that probably could have been avoided, but.
Well, your options are an 80-inch Nebraska goat,
which is like shooting a 190-inch deer around here.
Yeah, like that's for a Nebraska goat. That's potentially a once in a lifetime.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't happen.
I'm going to just go ahead and call it that.
Yeah. Like, the odds of that happening again. I personally, I know that they shoot them. You're talking Wyoming, Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado. Like, they shoot 80-inch goats, but Nebraska,
70 inches a shooter every day.
If you see a 70-inch goat, you better pull the trigger.
Yep.
And if you're passing on that, then you need to go to a different state probably.
I've got one mounted on the wall that's 70 inches, and my dad has 4.
Yeah.
And they look good.
Yeah.
So
this thing's going to dwarf them.
Yeah.
And what's crazy is every mass measurement it has is huge.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember. I don't score that many antelope, but you get 3. Is that right?
Yes.
You get 1 at the base,
one
right below the cutter, and one right above the cutter.
Yep. And the mass measurement above the cutter was 4 inches. What the base of some whitetails measure.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, usually that's like you're hoping for 2.5 on a medium-sized antelope.
I mean, that's almost what the base of a lot of antelope score.
Yeah. So
that's awesome. That's freaking sweet. And so then when you started sending pictures, I just told my wife, I was like, I'm going to Arik's tonight.
I think the first text I sent in the group chat was, didn't get it on film, but he's huge.
And I obviously I want that on film, but with you guys as collaborators and stuff, like, it really is all whatever you guys get, you know. Yep. And that's what I was telling Tyler too. He asked, that was his first question when I sent the picture. He's like, did he get that thing on film?
Yeah.
I was like, no, he didn't. But I was like, just remember, like, we want all their stuff on film, but like, this is also like your first year doing it. So the number of things that we missed on film, our first year doing it is just crazy. And it's just because you gotta, like, you're getting into that feel of how that works and what that looks like. And and it's hard. I will 100% vouch for, like, when you have someone like your younger brother running a camera who knows how to run that technology, and nothing against your dad.
If I handed my dad the camera, he would not know how to even function it. So.
I know, no offense to my dad either, because I love my dad. He's awesome. He taught me almost everything I learned as a young kid about hunting. But he ain't a camera guy.
No.
Like, I've tried to have him run cameras and stuff. Tyler's had him run cameras, and it's just not the same.
Yep.
It just is what it is, and it happens. And
it didn't even really cross my mind until it was on the ground, and then I was like, this would have been like one of the best videos of the year.
Yep. Yeah, and it probably would have. With that, though, we do have 2 other antelope videos coming up that are on film. So even though you didn't get the one, I mean, it would have been cool.
2 out of 3.
I mean, 2 out of 3 kills are on film. And as a collaborator, like, it's not like we're saying that you have, like, you're required to get them on film. It's all up to you and what you provide. And I mean, if that video would have made 100,000 views, I guess that's your dollar you're missing.
I know.
But no, just kidding. Anyways, but yeah, I'll drop some pictures in here, and it's so hard to tell with some of the pictures, I think, even to judge how big he really is, because he is big.
Yeah, there was a lot of people coming over because I didn't think they believed me. Yeah. A lot of people, I think, thought this was a 74-inch antelope, and I didn't know what I was talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
and then they showed up and their jaws basically dropped.
And I don't know what it is for sure about, for some, like, when you look at the picture, it is hard to add it up. and it's the width and everything's so spread out and far apart.
Yep.
It's just really hard to tell. And he gains so much. And I think that's, like you said, he's like 13 inches tall or whatever.
Yeah.
All of his size doesn't come from his height. And when you look at an antelope, that's the easy thing to judge.
Usually 80-inch antelope, your first thought is 15 plus inches tall.
The easy thing to judge on a goat is its height. And the mass is super hard to judge. The second easiest thing to judge is the cutter size.
Yep.
Well, this thing's cutters are humongous.
One side was 7 inches.
7 inches? Oh my goodness. I didn't know they were that big. I've never seen a cutter that big. That's just insane. But like that's the kind of stuff you're not talking whitetail where you got 150 inches. You're talking an antelope where you got 80. So comparing what could be a 3 or 4 inch cutter on some goats.
Yep.
Now you got 7. Like you just gained almost 10 inches right there between the two cutters. I mean,
just the cutters alone on
6
a
to 8 inches
70-inch frame.
Yeah.
On this one, and you're already pushing
exactly.
80.
And then you throw in the just unreal mass on it.
Yep.
That's what blows it up. And those are things that are hard to see in pictures, and they're hard to see in the field when you're judging it too. I mean, luckily for you, it's not like you were sorting through a ton of goats trying to figure out, okay, what goat am I going to shoot?
Yeah.
It was just, okay, I know that's the one because it's laid out like this, and like that's our goat. That's our target buck.
Yeah, we're just lucky. We're lucky with this landowner. He'll never listen to this. He doesn't even have Facebook, by the way. But
that's fantastic.
But he gives us free reins of his place out here in Nebraska, and it's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. Just one of those. It's a good family connection that you've built good relationships with, and
yep.
I mean, it's kind of like that's what we have for our whitetail spot in eastern Nebraska. Like, it's a good family relationship that my grandpa started, and it's just kind of continued to build and maintain. And
yep. And then you get to look back and you realize how lucky you are.
Yeah.
So
serious. So, are you empty?
Close enough.
Okay, you better empty. We better get another beer before we get into my goat. Thank you.
Okay, so I shot an 80-inch antelope, and Bryan was struggling out there with the kids.
Hold on, this is very important. Doesn't the commercial go whoosh?
Yep.
When we were in Alaska, it was the funniest thing. Our pilot, so my buddy Cole that went up there with us, he drinks all sorts of different beers, but Busch Light, whatever. Like, I think his favorite thing is Stag. I've never had a Stag, but he like stocks up on them every year. But our pilot, just joking around, we spent a whole day with him because we were reined in, but he was giving him a hard time. He looked at Cole one like midday on the day we're socked in, and he looks at him. He says, "I bet you're a Bud Light drinker, aren't you?" So that was kind of the joke. So I've never really cared. Bud Light gives me heartburn, so I don't drink it. So it was easy when all those controversial commercials came out that I didn't have to tell anybody that I was a Bud Light drinker ever before. But anyways, yeah, so I was struggling big time, and I had to start my season started a little different because I took all that time off for Alaska, and I have a wife and 2 kids, and
so the first weekend was pretty much off limits, right? You didn't even hunt.
Yeah, I didn't even hunt.
You already were pressing it a little bit.
Yeah, we had to, how they say, happy wife, happy life, happy spouse, happy house. We heard that one the other day. Like, I like that one because that one we can use on our side too. But so when I came back from Alaska, that next weekend was kind of an off limits weekend, just to make sure I spent it with the family and got back with them. Not having communication and stuff like that for so long it's hard. I get it. It's hard for me, but it's harder for them. So we took that weekend and went on vacation in Colorado to the mountains and just kind of hung out that weekend. So the first weekend I just didn't hunt. And then I went out. How did I do that? I took the kids and my wife. We went out on a Tuesday night. And you've been to this spot, but I directed myself like right to this public land location where I'd been there 4 times, and all 4 times I had seen a buck. And I know you were with me at least one of those times. I had my daughter with me one time, and we about stuck one with a bow. And so I knew I didn't have a ton of time that night. Brooke wanted to go with, which was awesome. So we all went out there, and we were driving down this trail road. It's a section line is what it is. And I could just see, I couldn't see this antelope, like with my bare eyes, but I pulled binoculars up and we're just kind of scanning the horizon. And all I could see was the head of one doe. And that head of that one doe she was probably half a mile out. But I was just confident that there had to be a buck there.
Yep.
Just based on history. Like I said, I'd been there 4 times and I'd seen a buck all 4 times. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, there's always a buck here. And for some reason, like I don't know if nobody ever kills it or like people don't travel down there. Like it's quite a ways out of all the towns around here.
Yeah, it's pushing a 40-minute drive probably.
Oh yeah, we put on, I think we did gravel roads. I think we did 55 miles that night. And so it's a haul out there, and that's all. Like I said, it's all gravel roads, and they're not great gravel roads by any means. So we got out, we parked, got out, took off walking. We were just gonna go crest this hill and see what we saw, and sure enough, pop up over this hill. There's this buck. Nothing great. It was probably a 12-inch goat with height, but didn't have mass, didn't have cutters.
But the kids were there.
So. The kids and the wife were there. So I was going to shoot this thing. And like I said, I had Gary's CVA, and I loaded it up. But by the time I loaded it up, the kids, they just get antsy. They want to see the antelope. They want to go. They want to do all this stuff. They want to move and get going. And basically, we got busted. I don't know when we got busted or how we got busted. Well, I know how. I mean, it was not quiet, and there was a lot of movement. But the movement, I'm not sure mattered because we were down below a hill. But it was pretty loud. Just getting excited, wanting to see it, through the binoculars. So we didn't get that one. They took off. And then from there,
went a couple more days.
Gosh, I'm trying to remember. I went that Thursday. No, I don't remember if I went Thursday or not. I think I went Thursday and Friday.
Because you shot him Friday.
That was the next Friday.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So then I hunted that weekend. I hunted Saturday and Sunday. And I put on, in 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, I put on almost 400 miles just driving and looking. So one tactic we use, because we don't have, we have a lot of access to property, but we don't have specific places where we're like, okay, if we go here, there's going to be goats.
Yeah.
And it's something we put all our dollars into. Or what's that saying? Put all our coins in one pot. I don't know. Anyways. Now I sound like an idiot. Now I sound like I've had more than 1.5 beers. But anyways, so we just drive and we find stuff and then we get permission. We're definitely not those people. We're not going to drive and find one and kill it and try to drag it out of there before anybody sees us. I won't do that. As a matter of fact, on Saturday evening, I was headed home and I passed some property and there was a big buck. And I kid you not, this thing was 30 yards off the road.
Yep.
And it was there was a big bluff, and it was like walking behind the bluff. And so I saw it, and I about crapped my pants. And then I drove past, and I turned around, and, I mean, the bluff wasn't very big. and I could see it, and it was coming around, and it bedded down on the backside of that bluff. It would have been honestly, it would have been the easiest bow kill ever, because the wind was like blowing up the bluff. You literally could have just crested it, and it would have been like a 20-yard shot. It would have been insane. But I figured out who the landowner was, went and got permission, or tried to get permission, couldn't find the guy. Talked to his wife. She didn't want to give me permission. She wanted me to talk to him. Couldn't find him, so I just went back to town and figured I'd try again tomorrow, because I didn't care. Again, I didn't care if it was 30 yards off the road. I won't do it.
Yep.
Like, the last thing I need is to piss a farmer off or a rancher. And so I did talk to some guys that they said this year they were not letting anybody hunt because of people like that.
Yeah.
So there was a group. I had found some antelope and one nice buck that I was trying to get permission to go after, and the guy I ended up talking to specifically said, well, here's his name, here's his phone number, but just so you know, him, myself, and one other guy, we made this agreement, we're not letting anybody hunt. He's like, yeah, that's not my land, so I'm going to give you his information and you can call him.
But I know he's going to say no.
But I know he's going to say no because, yeah, we already agreed to this. And it came down to there was guys that were, it was deer, but they were chasing them on dirt bikes.
Ooh.
And just literally running them until they couldn't run anymore and then killing them. And
did they call a game warden?
No, because they had given them permission to do it. They had given them permission to hunt.
Oh.
And then that's how they hunted them. So I don't really... I don't think there's probably anything illegal about that.
I think it says in
Does
the
it?
regulations you can't harass them with a vehicle.
I don't know.
I'm 90%
I've never
sure
been that.
tag.
I've never been that unethical, so
Yeah.
I don't know.
I just remember reading through all the regulations, and there's something about harassing with a vehicle.
Interesting.
Which
Very
I
interesting.
think that would.
And I don't know if
qualify.
a dirt bike, like an ATV, it's an all-terrain vehicle. I don't know. I mean, they must not have.
Shouldn't have to know.
You would
but
think he would have said something about that if he'd have called him in. But so I actually just out of what was funny, I was sitting in his yard talking to him. He was in his pickup facing to the west. I was in my pickup facing to the east, like into his yard. Back behind his yard, there was a good buck sitting out in the wheat field right behind his yard. I knew it was his land. Like I'd already looked on Onyx. But so actually, out of respect to that, the conversation I had with him, I didn't even call this other landowner. Yeah. We talked, like I said, quite a while, and we had a great conversation. And I told him, I said, it's really unfortunate that you guys had to go through that, because it's those kind of people that
ruin it for everybody.
Well, they ruined it for me this year.
Yep.
Like he straight up told me they've always let everybody hunt antelope, but now they won't let me on. So those guys, whoever they were, ruined that antelope hunt for me. And it was going to be an easy one because it was going to be through corn stalks, and it was like 30-mile-an-hour winds, and it was going to probably be like a 200-yard shot.
Yep.
And it was going to be easy, but it is what it is. He asked that. He said, if you see anybody around here on he gave me his name, the other guy's name, and the third guy's name. He said, if you see anybody on our land, he said, check with us, but you probably need to run them off because they probably don't have permission.
Yep.
He did say there was a TV crew running around, which I was trying to figure out who that would have been, but I guess they
might have a couple assumptions.
I got some assumptions, but the other thing, it could have been archery.
Yeah.
And archery could have been non-residents, but so anyways, that kind of concluded that day. I did get on a go early that morning, backtracking a little bit, or tried to. I thought I got permission on the land that he was headed to. I was going to cut him off. Didn't end up there, and in that area, it was really hard because it was like there was like a quarter section owned by one person, and a quarter section owned by one person, and then there was like a half section that maybe another person owned, and then there was a school section, which in Nebraska is not public, and then there was like a quarter section over here, so it was like super choppy. So to to be able to get on some of those goats, you would have had to have permission on like 6 people's property.
Yep.
Because you never know where they're going to be at. And I just wasn't going to run all over and try to do that. It wasn't worth the time. So, so the next day, Sunday, I drove even further. I think I probably put on like 150 miles that first day. So Sunday, I mean, mind you, I drove about 400 that weekend. So I put about 250 miles on Sunday just trying to find a goat. And we found a lot of antelope, but nothing that I'm the kind of, like, I'm going to be picky unless, like, I have my kids with me.
Yep.
If I have my kids with me, I will literally shoot anything legal because to me it's about exposing them to the activity
Yep.
and to hunting and showing them how it's done right and making sure that they understand that. Just making sure we're still catching audio here. It looks interesting, but we are. So it's really important to me to make sure that they are exposed to that type of thing. So I don't really care. I shot a really small buck with my rifle years back with my daughter. She'd have been 2, I think she was. And it was little, but she was by my side when I did it.
Yep.
And that's what mattered to me.
And I don't know for you, but I remember being with my dad when they would shoot something little.
Yeah.
And you still remember it to this day. So.
Absolutely, without a doubt. So that's important to me. So I was picky on that Sunday, and there was a lot of antelope that I would have shot with my kids and my wife, but there was nothing that I was going to shoot by myself. Or my dad was with me on that Sunday, and he's the same way. Like, we're going to shoot a good goat if we're going to shoot something.
Yep.
And we just didn't find anything. We turned up a lot of antelope, but we didn't ever find anything that was like, okay, we need to kill that. So we kind of backtracked out of that, got home that night, and then I didn't hunt again that week. I don't remember what I had going, meetings every day after work and stuff like that.
Almost to the point where now you're in desperation mode.
Like, I'm getting there. I can't remember, was that the last weekend or was there one more? I think there was one more weekend. No, that would have been the last. That would have been coming. That would have been coming into the third weekend.
Yep.
Which was the final weekend. So I was going into the last weekend of the season, but it was Friday. I had meetings until about 3:30, and I got out of this meeting, and I just got in my pickup, and Gary called me. He's like, "Hey, I think I know where there's a goat." I was like, "All right, let me go home. I'll get my stuff. I'll be there in a little bit." So we got out there, and we ended up turning up this goat. And to be honest with you, we didn't really ever size it up. We just knew it was a decent buck, and we just went and made a play. And the play ended up being perfect. So if you're looking at this table, this place where we were hunting was it was probably a mile deep. So it's a section deep. We're probably half a section wide of like, I'm trying to remember what it even was. It was like a stubble filled with weed, I think. And this was corn. That was corn. All of this out in front on the east side was corn, except for this little part right here. So if they were going to go east, they were going to have to shoot this gap right here. That was like 100 yards wide, and it had to cross a road. So we had corn from where this antelope was. There was corn to the north, corn to the south, corn to the east, except for about 100-yard gap. We came in from the west, and we got to this knob, and when we got to that knob, they were 400 yards out, or 430 or something like that. And they were bedded down. They had absolutely no idea we were there. The wind was kind of howling. It was probably 20 mile an hour, I would guess. So it was blowing pretty good. It ended up calming down towards the end, which was good. But we sat there for over an hour and just waited them out with the exact thought that, okay, where are they going to go?
Yep.
Like, they have nowhere to go. It was going to be, I think it was a 300-yard shot to the corn to the south, which would have been a poke, but we could have done it. It was about that to the corn to the south. And that's talking if they were walking right along the edge of it.
Yep.
They were currently over 400 yards away, so they're quite a ways away right now. So our play was trying to decide. So I'm trying to describe this. We're on this knob here, and what we had crossed, there was an old fence line, and there was a bunch of weeds in it, and it was thick. So one thing we considered is if they started coming back at us on our right to the south, we considered darting back and getting to that old fence line and just hiding in that fence line and ambushing them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the does split from that buck so early, and that buck stayed, and we didn't know what that buck was doing. So we didn't know if they would split around this knob and some of them go south and some of them go north. I mean, odds are they wouldn't have, but that would really suck if you put all your apples and you banked on them following them south, and then they went north.
Yep.
So we stayed on this knob and just kind of waited them out. Well, these does ended up so close to us that finally we're like, well, we're not moving. Like, no matter what happens, we're not going anywhere. So after about an hour, they started working their way that they were working like southwest. So if you're watching, here's our knob, here's the goats, corn. They were kind of coming this way. So they worked a little bit south, and then they kind of turned and they were coming like an angle. And where they were going to cross, they were probably going to cross us like perpendicular to the south at probably 200 yards, and which would have been just fine.
Yep.
The challenge was going to be we had an east wind, so a 50 caliber muzzle loader, east wind at 200 plus yards, like you're going to have some drift.
Yep.
So I was thinking about that, like if it was walking that way, you're probably going to have to aim center body, and that's going to probably put it up in the shoulder. So I had been thinking about that, and what ended up happening is they were coming that direction, and then they finally got all back together, and they turned in a line, and they were going straight south. And they were about, I think I ranged them at that point at like 260, and then finally Gary and I decided, we're like, okay, we have to do it now.
Yep.
Like, this has to happen. They were walking away. And like I said, they had nowhere to go. They were going to get to that corn and have to do something. But I don't know if they were going to get closer to the corn and bed down for the evening. I don't know if they're going to get closer to the corn and head west. Who knows what they're going to do. But what I knew right now is that they were at 260 yards. And that muzzle loader was more than capable of making that shot.
Yep.
So I belly crawled. It was bad. Like, we were so skylined, it wasn't even funny. Especially so after I made the shot, we're walking down to put hands on him. I looked back, and it was just like we had to be these giant blobs up there. But what we did have going was there was other like weeds. There were some taller weeds there. So we could have blended in with those, but if they'd have spotted me crawling and stuff, it would have been game over, because we were so skylined. But anyways, I belly crawled up just good enough to where I could get a laying down shot. Now the catch is, mind you, I told you we were up on a knob. So I'm trying to get this muzzle loader so I can even see the thing in the scope. And so my left elbow's down, but my right elbow's like this.
And this scope is set up for Gary on top of it,
right?
I'm sure.
So
Gary, who's...
I hope I don't make Gary mad, but I don't think Gary's 6 foot tall.
He's a little shorter than me. And you got Bryan, who's 6'4" with 6'10"
I love
wingspan.
Gary, but his size difference is significantly different than mine. I'm 6'2" with a 6'7" wingspan. Like I got a long neck. I need... My scope setup is just different, is what it comes down to.
Yep.
And I noticed it when I was shooting it, when we were just target shooting with him, that it wasn't something that I was going to be able to just pull up and just find the scope right away. Like it wasn't going to happen. Nor can you really expect that when it's not your gun.
Yep.
But it was very significant. I don't remember having a challenge in that time because I guess I knew it was going to happen. I knew I had to creep my cheek forward on the stock and everything. Like I already had that in mind. So I don't remember that, but what I remember is trying to get, like I had to aim down, so the back of the gun, like my elbow and everything, you'll see when that YouTube video comes out, you'll see, like I'm like off the ground like this, like trying to shoot down. It was not the most sturdy shot, and I was a little nervous. I kind of felt like I flinched right at the last second when I pulled the trigger. But I was nervous, and Gary was having a heck of a time because he was back behind me with the camera. And it was so funny because he's like, hold on. And he was I want to say he was like 245 or 247 or something like that. So just a hair under 250. And hold on. I was like, you got him? No, hold on. Well, the autofocus, he was just low enough that those...
Catching the weeds.
Yeah, those weeds I was telling you about that I was like kind of skylined with, that's what it was catching. So he was unable to focus. Finally, he got zoomed out enough, and I'll have to do some, if I want to zoom in more, I can do it on the computer or something. But finally, he's like, well, no, I don't remember if he told me. I can't remember exactly how it went, but I think he could tell I was probably getting like antsy, like, okay, you got him? Are you on him? And I think I'll have to look back on the camera. I think I said something like, all right, we're just going to have to do it. Because one thing I've talked about is when it comes down to it, like, yeah, we want to provide all the footage. We want to get all the kill shots. But the fact of the matter is we're not on the Outdoor Channel.
Yep.
It doesn't have to be on camera. Do I want it on camera? Absolutely I do. But I'm not going to get like cut from a channel or something if I do all these hunts and it's not on camera. Like, It's our choice. It's what we did. And I'm not going to give up a kill because the autofocus on the camera isn't hitting it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was really glad he zoomed out, and finally we just made the decision we're just going to do it. And I torched that thing off, and it's got a light trigger. Like, I was not anticipating it at all. Like, it was a surprise pull, which is good. But 250 yards, I wish I could remember. I think it had a 14-inch drop. Did I say that was at 300 earlier?
I think so.
I can't remember. I knew at 250 yards, I had, maybe it was 7 inches or something like that, because I knew if I was at the top of the body, I would be a little too high. So I had to come down like an inch or two on the body into the hair. And that was where I tried to put it. And he was quartered to me and really kind of hard. So I was aiming front shoulder a little bit forward and trying to send it through the goodies and out the back side. And torched that thing off. And he ran, I don't know, 20, maybe 30 yards and fell down. And then he got back up. And whenever they get back up, I get so nervous.
Yeah, especially for an antelope, because they're not insanely tough, so then you never know.
Yeah, and he tried to get back up, and he went just a couple steps, and he just dropped, and he never moved again. So we got up to it, and I put it exactly where I wanted. Right, it was just so if he was going this, it would have been his right shoulder. I put it just in front of his right shoulder enough to where it didn't like shatter his shoulder. So like he wasn't limping around on three legs. He was running pretty good, but it went right in front of that right shoulder and came out like just at the back ribs or middle of the back ribs. It just messed him up. It was insane.
And that was the first shot, or did you shoot twice?
Only shot once.
Okay.
Yep, just dumped him. And that was so when it all finally came together. That was the load that I loaded clear back on that first night I went out when the kids and Brooke were with me. That was it. Just stayed loaded that whole time, and finally it was time to release
Let her go. I thought mine felt forever that it was loaded, and it was 3 days.
Yeah, Yeah. So, yeah, what is that, a week and a half? Yeah. It was loaded for a week and a half.
And I don't know what it is about that,
Ready
but
to
that
roll.
makes me so nervous.
Well, I asked Gary that night when we got in the vehicle. I was like, "Hey, this has been loaded," because I don't know anything about muzzleloaders. Like I said, that was the third time I'd ever even pulled the trigger on one. And I asked him, I was like, "How long is that? Like, this has been loaded for a while." I was like, "Do I need to like pack it back down? Do I need to?" He's like, "Oh no, you're good. Once it's in there, you're
Yep.
good to roll." So, just insane to me.
I know.
Really, like
I had to
it's
ask
that
my dad
easy.
that too, actually, because I was like, I don't know, just seems like something wrong could happen, but
Yeah.
mine went off just fine, and
Yeah.
yours did a week longer.
Yeah.
So
And I guess the thing I was worried about was he was riding around in my pickup with the barrel down.
yep,
So I was like, well, could that bullet ever like
just barely
move
move.
forward?
Yeah,
And
figure it moves at a centimeter, it wouldn't even
then
go
you got
off.
space in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how that works, but like I said, I'm not smart enough with them to really know. Oh man, work messages. To really even know whether that's a problem or not, but so yeah, that was my first muzzle loader antelope that I'd ever killed, and I'll drop a picture in for you guys here. I haven't even put a tape to it. It
Yeah.
is in the freezer at my dad's house. I think I've decided that I'm not going to mount it. I'm going to do a Euro mount on it. It's not 80 inches,
No,
but
it's still
it's
a
a
good one.
really good representative of a Nebraska goat. And
I would have shot it.
oh yeah,
If I wasn't chasing this
Yeah.
certain one,
Yeah.
I hadn't seen another one bigger than this
Yeah.
one. So
and it yeah, it's one of the bigger antelope I've shot in a lot of years. And I'm trying to think the last antelope that I shot would have been that little one I was telling you about with my daughter.
yep.
Would have been the last antelope I shot, because we've always done the rifle season, and the only reason I chose the muzzleloader this year to
I think
apply,
it was just after us kind of talking about it, wasn't it?
probably, yeah. But I went for a drive too, and I just didn't see that many bucks. And so, what the muzzleloader antelope tag does for us in Nebraska is it allows us to basically hunt the whole state.
Yep.
And
So if you're listening to this, buy a rifle tag.
yeah. I mean, sorry. Always buy the rifle tag. Hopefully, most of our listeners are non-residents and they don't get a choice anyways. But it just, I love the rifle tag, and I want to shoot one. Like one of my goals is to shoot one at like 700, 800 yards. Like I want to do that.
Well, the good news is you could probably do it with your 300 PRC.
That's my intent. Someday. Now I gotta wait 5 more
It
years.
won't make a bigger hole than my muzzleloader did.
Well,
I can promise you that.
The muzzleloader I shot was a 50 cal.
yeah,
So
same here.
if a 300 PRC is overkill, so is the muzzleloader.
You could stick your fist through the rib cage of the one I shot.
Isn't
It
it
was
crazy?
insane.
My dad always taught me there's no such thing as too dead.
Nope.
So, but yeah. Anyways, so what's the rest of the year look like? Well, I have a Pine Ridge mule deer rifle tag, so I got to be a little bit careful what I do with my archery deer tag,
Yep.
because I don't want to go drop a 120-inch buck.
Because then you're screwed if
'Cause-
it's not
then my season's
a Pine
over.
Ridge unit.
Yeah. Then my season's over if I shoot a 120-inch whitetail. My season's over because that mule deer tag is my second buck tag. So I have my archery deer tag, which you can shoot any deer on it. You can shoot a doe, you can shoot a buck, you can shoot a mule deer, doesn't matter. I think there might be some restrictions in.
You can't shoot a mule deer doe north of the river.
That's
right
what I was
where
gonna
we
say.
are.
I think there's some restrictions on mule deer doe, but I don't know why you want to shoot a mule deer doe
Yeah.
in Nebraska. If you're shooting a doe, shoot a whitetail. It tastes better.
Yeah.
But so I have that, and that's one thing that I'm trying to navigate. Like I'm going this weekend, and my kids are going, so it is going to be tough. I'm going to make sure I have Season's Choice tags to shoot does, because I don't want to waste my buck tag before the rut.
Yep.
Unless it's big. Like if it's a 150-inch deer, I'm shooting it.
Yep.
But if it's not big, I really don't want to waste that tag right away. Otherwise, I'm not going to get a hunt. So.
Then your wife would be really happy, but
She would be really happy, actually, if I couldn't.
tag's full.
Right.
October 15th.
Yeah. She understands. She thinks I'm crazy for it, and maybe I am a little bit. She says I'm obsessed, and maybe I am a little bit, but let's be honest, we could have worse hobbies. I mean, we could go to the bar and just slam these things, these bush lights, but instead we just have like 2 or 3 and do a podcast about hunting with she was making fun of me. So when I texted you, I was with her. We went to the pumpkin patch today, and I texted you just like on voice text or whatever. I don't even remember what I said. It's like, hey, you still good to do that podcast today? And she looks at me and she just kind of like, she's like, that is like such bro time. It's not even funny. I was like,
wow, we need to change the name of this. Something to do with bro time.
Right, bro time.
Hunting overcast bro time.
Bro time. Maybe that's just how we need to intro it in.
Welcome back to bro time,
Welcome
everybody.
back. This is the Hunting Overtime podcast. It's
Bush Light edition.
It's Bush Light edition. It's bro time. It's about to be bro time. Do you have both your tags?
So I have,
Or you have
an archery tag, and then so I really don't know why I always buy an archery tag, and then the $88 any season tag. So I can shoot $2. Don't plan on it. Bought season choice doe tags, and I'll be hunting on the river again this year.
Yeah.
So those are my plans. 3 weeks of vacation coming up soon.
Yeah.
Camper
Yeah.
is moving up to the river next weekend.
Yeah.
We're gonna put in the time and
You're doing campers next weekend,
Yep.
you decided, yeah.
yep. Talked to the landowner yesterday. So.
Nice. And he didn't like give you the middle finger and say screw you, so that's good.
No.
That's a positive.
His little lady friend, on the other hand, though,
Not a fan, huh?
she's apparently a turkey lover, because we can't shoot turkeys now because she feeds them in the barn. Not even making that up. And I was like, well, I haven't shot a turkey here ever, but I can still shoot 150-inch deer when it comes by, right? Okay, I'm good.
Which is what matters.
Yep.
So, yeah. Interesting. We need to get on our... One of us needs to get a bull elk tag drawn, but we just can't seem to do it. I think... Did you hear anything about this bighorn sheep tag in Nebraska? I have heard that there's a 16-year-old girl from here that drew the tag.
Yeah, I knew that.
You knew
Do
that.
you know who it is?
Yeah, I know her. I don't want to throw the name out just because I don't know
Yeah.
that they want that information out there, but
Is she even 16?
I guess I don't know if she's 16.
She's like 14 or 15.
I thought she was in high school,
Okay.
which I guess could be anywhere from 15 to 18, but
But yeah, so
Like,
in
that is
Nebraska, there's
sweet.
2 bighorn sheep hunts. One gets auctioned off for like $100,000 a year, and they get to share camp with this 15-year-old girl who
How
also
cool
gets
is
to
that,
shoot
though?
one. That's awesome.
like that is insane. I'm super jealous,
Yeah.
but good for her. I should reach out and see if they want me to film it. When is that hunt? Any idea when that season is?
I don't know. That's a good question. It's definitely after rifle season for deer.
Is it?
I'm pretty sure.
Because I know the family. That'd be a really cool video.
Yeah.
I don't know if they'd be down for it or not, but
As long as they got a copy, I don't see why they would care.
yeah, that'd be a sweet video. But anyways, I think we're about right at an hour. So do you have anything else that you think is... Shot my bow today. That was good. It's like riding a bike.
I did shoot before I came over here, actually.
You did?
Yep.
Go good?
Went good. So hopefully by the next podcast, a couple deer on the ground, ideally.
That's the hope.
I was hoping to hunt this coming or last weekend, but the bugs were so bad.
Yeah, that's what you said.
But
I'm pretty excited to give my Coda Silence gear a try this weekend. I've kind of been itching on it. Get some of that out there and see see how it works and get them some feedback and reviews. And it looks good.
Looks really good.
Yeah, I need to have you see the stuff that I got.
Yeah, I might have to come over sometime this week.
Yeah.
Check it out.
But anyways, I don't really have anything else. All small talk from here, so we're going to let everybody go. We will be back, like I said. So that's Arik's antelope, my antelope. Gary has shot an antelope. He's put an arrow in a mule deer. And we got to recap my Alaska hunt. So we got a lot of stuff that we already have to do. And to be honest with you, just be grateful. It is the middle of hunting season, and we are getting a podcast out. That in itself is a win.
Yep.
Like, let's be honest.
It only gets busier from here.
That's a win because
seriousness is stepped up from here.
Yeah, we're coming in on the rut, and so. Anyways, I think we're gonna cut it off here. Thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure you tune in on YouTube if you have not. So if you're just listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or something like that, make sure you check us out on YouTube. That's the Seasons Media on YouTube. And again, Arik's a content provider for us here this year, along with Gary, and then our buddy Chad. He's going to do some of that for us as well. So we're excited. We got a ton of stuff coming this fall because we've joined in with those guys and added three new collaborators. So that's going to be 3 different people providing content for you all. So make sure you get subscribed there. If you have any questions, feedback, podcast ideas, if you got a good story for us, we would love to have you on the podcast. So just reach out to us. You can reach us at huntingovertime@gmail.com, or you can message us on the Seasons Media, Instagram, whatever you choose. However you want to get a hold of us, just make sure you do, and we'd love to have you on or answer any questions that you have. So thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, everybody, and we're going to catch you on the next episode.